I recently designed this little portable router table, and in building it, along with several other versions of this, it got me thinking, there's a lot of considerations that go into the design of a router table if you want to build your own. So let's check out a few of them, like choosing between a router plate or a specialized lift, a shop-made fence or a produced fence like this aluminum one, and things like mounting accessories and T-track. So let's get into it. Well, this is a benchtop router table, but it's a little bit bigger than most. It has a typical 24-inch width, but I made it a bit deeper. Instead of the standard 16, this one's 18.5 deep on the table. And actually, when comparing it to my full-size router table, this dimension in front of the bit is actually the same, so it really gives you some good support. Now, typically you'll see somebody use a router plate like this one. It's phenolic, it's from Craig, and it's fine, but the issue with that is it's difficult to raise the collet high enough on your router to actually be able to do bit changes up above the table where it's easy. And so unless you have one of the few special routers that can handle that, like the Triton or the old Freud FT1700, which they don't even make anymore, sometimes I start thinking about getting a router lift, and that just lets you crank it so much higher for above the table bit changes. This one happens to be from Spetool, and one wrench locks and unlocks it, as well as raises it up and down, and just look how high we can go with this collet. Okay, so that's plenty high for above the table bit changes with 2 wrenches in this case. And the nice part is I don't even have to use my bent wrenches like I do on some of my other router setups. Hey, if you like where this topic is headed, do me a favor, give me a quick thumbs up, and please do subscribe to The Thoughtful Woodworker. I've got lots of great router table content coming your way. You don't want to miss it. And the only real negative on any router lift is just that it can be a little tedious to raise and lower this all the way, but boy, considering the alternative where you have to remove your motor from the router table, that can be a real hassle, so I would definitely take this option. And that same wrench just locks it in place. And the thing here is, boy, if you grab that motor and shake it, there is no deviation. That thing is rock solid. I think the style of insert rings factors into how much you might like the router lift. This one uses hard anodized aluminum rings, and it's got magnetic catches that hold on to the screws down below, and those screws do make it adjustable to easily level that out. This is a new system for me. Usually I'm using a twist lock insert, although on other manufacturers they become plastic lately, so I don't really care for that. So we'll see how this goes with the Spetool. Let me just remove that PowerTech fence for a second, and in a bit we'll get into a discussion on these factory fences versus a shop-made version and which one you might want to go with. With that fence momentarily out of the way, I can remove the router lift because I want to show you one special feature it has that I haven't seen on other lifts. Now, router plates and lifts have become all but standardized in their size. 11 3/4 by 9 1/4 is the standard. The one still using something different is Rockler, and they're 8 1/4 on this short dimension, but otherwise they're the same 11 3/4 width, so just something to be aware of before you go and order a plate. Even the corner diameter are different on these. The standard is 1.5 inch diameter for this corner shape, and that kind of forces you to use a Fosner bit when you're making a template to recess your plate. But on the Pro plate, it's got a smaller corner curve. That's a 3/4 inch diameter there. I'll pull out that last corner screw, and I'll show you the recess I formed to accept this lift. Now, this is one of the heavier and bulkier lifts that I've used, but I think that starts to pay off when you see what this thing can do. Okay, so there you can see the custom recess that I routed to accept this. I like to leave a little extra meat in the corners here, so it's got plenty of strength for the threaded inserts, and that's been working out pretty well. It has a really interesting mechanism. Router's unplugged here, of course, but you see the beauty of this as you loosen this up to release the router. You see that the adjustment jaws on this can accept anything from a small compact trim router to a mid-sized router like this Bosch 1617, or even all the way up to a full-size 3 1/4 horse router in the same lift. And I really hadn't seen that before. Typically, if I buy a router lift, it'll say for a 3.5-inch motor, like this mid-size version, but on this one, you can really handle a wide variety of motors. And that's made possible thanks to this adjustment mechanism that auto-centers the clamp. Actually kind of reminds me of the old-fashioned doweling jigs, but it's just ingenious, this approach. Well, sometimes you read a stat that a company puts out and you don't really believe it until you see it yourself, but let's put a little trim router in there and see if we can get a good grip on that. Oh yeah, no problem. So that would be a good fit for this little DeWalt trim router. Looks like it'll even get a bite on this biggest router I have, 3¼ horse Speedmatic. Nevertheless, I'm going to stick with my mid-size Bosch, and as you tighten that up, just make sure that you stay on the flat of the motor, not on the tapered section. Snug that up, and then lock up the knob. If you use your own router template, you may have to knock out some additional clearance areas just because of the size of this lift, or you can use their 2-part template that actually comes with the lift. All right, let's look at some tabletop considerations so you don't make the same mistake I see so many woodworkers make when it comes time to choosing material for that top. Here's one good option. This is 1.5-inch thick MDF, so it's basically 2 layers of 3/4-inch MDF that I laminated together and then just covered it with a typical T-molding product, so a routed slot, and then just tap it in place with a rubber mallet. And that works really well. It's a little bit heavy and bulky for a portable router table, but this would be perfect for a full-size unit that you weren't moving much. And the key thing is you don't want to use a single layer of 3/4-inch MDF, especially if you're going to route T-tracks in it, because there's just not enough strength down below, and it's really a problem when you go to add screws in your T-track. There's just not enough meat there to get a good bite. Other good options are full 1-inch thick MDF that you can get right off the shelf from some specialty plywood retailers. Or you could use 1-inch thick Baltic birch plywood with a Formica top. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to source this thickness, so I did have to laminate 2 pieces of 1/2-inch Baltic birch together, but that worked well. And I sourced that as well as this black phenolic plywood from Maker Stock, but they do sell online, so I'll put a link for you down in the description. And whatever style of base you come up with, make sure that that's easy to clamp down to your workbench so it's good and stable. That makes all the difference for me, and it's always been an important design consideration. That and handles everywhere you might need to use them. And then let's look at a couple of fence and T-track options to outfit your table. Now you could certainly concoct a shop-made fence, and I've made some fancy ones even with sliding fences and dust collection, but honestly, for the amount of effort and money that you have to put into a fence like this, it's kind of a break-even proposition for just going out and buying one. And T-tracks recessed into the top are a nice way to secure your fence. These I got from PowerTech, and they actually were pretty easy to install, so that's a nice way to go. I usually set 2 towards the back of the table. Those are about 9 inches long, and then one that runs the full width of the table, about 1.25 inches in front of the plate. And that one's perfect for feather boards or whatever accessories you like to use in the shop. Then on your fence choices, there's several different brands available, but what I like about these is they come with everything you need. The tall knobs, the sliding fences, a dust collection port, typically a bit guard, and some even have this feather board that you can mount to the fence. Now that's kind of a short feather board, so it's not good as a table feather board, but it is handy to mount to the fence. This one even has a matching flip stop, so that's great if you like to do stop grooves at your router table. And this whole setup is really pretty hard to beat for just around $100. The extrusion on that is really heavy duty too, and it's got a nice fit and finish to it. And then your dust port is good for shop vac fitting, so 2¼ inches on the inside diameter, or a 2.5-inch flex hose fits on the outer. Let's give it a little test drive. I'll be using my figure 8 dust separator, so there's video plans for that if you're interested. So a lot of good options and some food for thought if you're building your own router table, but be sure to drop down to the description box. I've got all the goodies that really helped me in building this project myself, so you'll find links to all those there. And please give me a quick thumbs up and subscribe to The Thoughtful Woodworker. I'd love to have you on board.